Now, in this country of 330 million people, some will not want to take it. Some will have religious objections. Some will be nervous about the effects of it. So what happens then? Well, retired law professor Alan Dershowitz, a famous civil libertarian, says these objections won't matter. If the government wants to, the government has the right to seize you and inject the vaccine by force.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Professor Dershowitz is the author of the book Guilt by Association, among many other books. We're happy to have him on tonight. Professor, thanks so much for coming on.
Well, thank you. The name of the book is Guilt by Accusation. So,
by accusation, but I changed the title because I like that one. But no, I'm just kidding. I made a mistake. Thanks for correcting it.
Sure.
So I introduced you, obviously correctly. You're probably the most famous civil libertarian in America. And I understand the argument that you're making, which is you don't have a right to endanger other people. Your right to punch ends with the tip of my nose. I understand the argument. But there is also, in the specific case of a vaccine, a risk to the individual taking it because vaccines are good for populations, but in some rare cases, sometimes not that rare, they can hurt people. That's factually true. Does the government still have a right to endanger you by forcing you to take it?
The Supreme Court has said yes, and if the case came to the Supreme Court today, they would say yes. It would either be 9-0 or 8-1. It is not a debatable issue constitutionally. Look, they have a right to draft you and put your life in danger to help the country. The police power of the state is very considerable. But let's distinguish between the constitutional issue on the one hand, which is settled, and the moral issue on the other hand. I think one can make a plausible argument that nobody should be required to be subject to a dangerous vaccination to help other people. That's a plausible argument. And I think we should continue to debate that. I wouldn't require people to take the vaccine unless it was proved very, very safe. Now, any injection can cause, obviously, infection at the site. Any pill can cause a problem. But in general, if the vaccine is deemed extremely safe, then the state does have a right to compel you to take it. Because remember, vaccines work on a theory of mass inoculation. You're not taking the vaccine to help yourself. If there were a vaccine developed for cancer or a heart condition, obviously you and I would have a right to say, no, we have a right to die. I believe you have a right to die. But I don't believe you have a right to be Typhoid Mary and spread it. Look, if you don't want to take the vaccine, you have an option. You can stay in quarantine. But what you don't have the right to do is circulate in society without being vaccinated if the vaccine is proved to be very safe. And that could be a matter of...
Proved to be. And that's I think, is something about... There is so much lying about vaccines, probably on all sides, but there certainly is lying about vaccines because public health authorities don't want people... they want people to take them. And I get it, but people are nervous. Let me ask you, though, by the same reasoning, since we have, in effect, socialized medicine, we're all affected by the health choices our neighbors make, why should we allow people to eat Little Debbie snack cakes when we're all paying for diabetes treatment?
Well, I've just written another book about that. It'll be out in a month. It's called The Case for Liberalism in an Age of Extremism, in which I have a chapter on that. And I say, no, that argument doesn't work. It's the old John Stuart Mill argument. And you have to just say you can never make somebody do anything only for their own good, even if it has collateral impacts on the rest of us. No man is an island. We know that. And in the world in which we live, if you get fat and get sick, we pay for it. That's not enough as a civil libertarian. But the spread of a deadly, highly contagious illness is enough for a civil libertarian. But I want to have a rule of reason. I don't believe in shutting down a whole society or putting people in jail for not wearing masks. You have to have a rule of reason. If the vaccine is very effective and very safe, I would start, by the way, by having people volunteer first. I wouldn't compel them first. But you might get to a point where healthy people, without any risk, considerable risk to themselves, say no, and then if the state decides to compel them, they would win in the Supreme Court of the United States. That's my expert prediction as a constitutional lawyer. Would I take the vaccine myself? Of course I would. Would I require my 10-year-old great-grandson or something to take it? That might be a different issue because the risk may exceed of taking the vaccine, maybe arguably exceed the benefit to the child, because COVID is not particularly dangerous for children. These are issues that ought to be debated. We ought to continue to have the debate. Free speech. Let's make sure the anti-vaxxers get to say their thing. But in the end of the democracy, you vote. And in the end, I think that if we have a safe vaccine, and we all hope we have a vaccine, warp speed is the president's term. It's a good term as long as we make sure we don't compromise safety in the process.
Yeah, I think a free debate is a prerequisite for all of this. As long as, and this is happening now, people with views that are considered apostasy are not allowed to speak. It makes everybody nervous, including me.
They must, and they're allowed to protest, and they're allowed to protest in a vigorous way, not in a violent way, but in a vigorous way. Right,
pulling people off the internet because they disagree with them, and that makes me trust nobody. Exactly, Professor. Thank you so much.
We have to have right to free speech.
Especially, amen.
Right.
Thanks. Well, in the end, we learned that General Michael Flynn, never leaked